We're ready to begin doing some washes here as a surface treatment, and I have my mask. It's been primed. This is about 3 coats of primer. So you can see it's done a pretty good job at filling in the spaces. What you don't want to do is put so much primer on that you start to lose the details and fill in these tiny little spaces and textures that you've already created. So 3 coats, light 3 coats is good for me in this scenario. I want to use a black for a wash. I have a couple options here. We have a Liquitex Mars Black. Pay attention that this is a heavy body, that meaning that this paint is thick and viscous, so it may not be a good option for a wash type situation here. Here's a Winsor Newton. It's a Mars Black. This is a lot thinner. This is the choice I'm going to go for. I have some on my palette here, and then this is also an India ink, and this would be great because it's super fluid. It mixes with water really well, so if you need to make a super thin wash, this would be a good option. I also have some water here to mix, some water right here for my brush, and then Liquitex makes a variety of mediums, which are nice because they thin down the paint to spread more evenly and to extend the dry time on the paint. For this wash, we're going to use water and paint strictly. I have a couple different brushes here. This will be my application brush. It's soft, very soft, and moppy. So it's going to pick up a lot of liquid paint pigment and allow me to get into these crevices here. And that's what I'm going to do first. You're really not going to see these crevices, but I want them dark, and I didn't get the primer in there, so I need to cover up that clay. My second brush is going to be something I use to remove the paint, the pigment off once I apply it on there. I don't want to cake on heavy levels of paint. I want it to be very layered and translucent, and that way we can build up depth within the mask. So I'm going to get some water, and you can do this any way you want. I like to do it a little bit at a time and be able to mix my media to the fluidity I need for this type of a thing. So it needs to be very wet. As you see, I can spread it around. It's very thin. I'm gonna add more water to that. I'm also going to be using water as I apply this onto the mask. I'm then going to use water to thin it out even more once I apply it on here. So I'm just going to start in the very back here. I guess I'll turn it around and let you see this. In these back areas, you're not going to see this. The viewer never sees this back part, but it'll give me a little practice, and it'll let me kind of assess how the paint is applying to the mask here already, which is good. It's nice and fluid. Kind of spread around here. Again, back of my mask. I'm really not worried about coverage at this point. I'm just kind of testing out the pigment and seeing how dark it's going to lay on there. I use a lot of water as I paint. You can always add more layers to get deeper colors and darker colors, but it's quite hard to lighten things up once you go too deep. So I like to build layers up that way. I don't have to rework a bunch. Okay, so from the front here, I already noticed I'm getting black in the crevices of the leaves, and that's what I want. That's my goal. I'm doing a wash, so the color is supposed to go deep into those dark areas. For my mask, I want to do lighter feathers, so my dark tones are going to be the deep inset lines that I made with the texturing. So I'm going to brush this on and kind of work in this area alone, so I don't get too far off. If you start to cover too much in one time, you can't come back and work this paint as it dries. Once it dries, it's on there. So I like to make sure it's exactly what I'm trying to get right now at this time. I didn't really care that I got paint on the eye, but I don't want it to be heavy paint, so I like to wash that off, thin it down. It's okay. I'll be painting over that later. So I'm working, I need more water with my ink here. I'm working to get down and deep in some of these areas, and that's the first step for this wash. I can go back over and make deeper areas, more saturated black like that, but I'm going to be applying so many layers anyway that it's going to happen naturally. So I don't try to do a whole area at one time. I like to work general to specific in painting, so you don't get too far off track, and you remember what you're working for. And so sticking in a certain area, like this quadrant right here for me, allows me to work and see how, you know, the mask is connecting from the different areas from up here to here. I want a nice transition, so I don't go too heavy in one area and forget about the rest. Work it together. And for now, I'm just going to let this dry and then work on another area. And the next video, you'll see adding on to this.